Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Patreon exclusive episode of the Friday Nightmares podcast. On this episode, we are going to be talking top 5 70s horror films. And as always, I am one third of the hosting team this evening, Mr. Smoke Show Crawford, coming to you from the town of Swartz Creek in the county of Genesee, in the state of Michigan, in the United States of America, in the North American continent, in the Western Hemisphere, on the planet Earth, in the Milky Way galaxy. I'm fully vaxxed, waxed, and ready to climax. And if you can, please get me wet and feed me after midnight.
Wow.
And with me, as always,
is Heather Powell coming to you today from plain old Waterdown, Ontario, Canada. But we have one of the coolest motherfuckers with us tonight.
Fuck yeah, we do.
I had the pleasure of meeting this gentleman about 2 years ago now, and we do a little podcast called It's Not Horror Okay, and he is honestly one of the funniest people I've ever met. He makes me laugh every single episode that we do. It's Not Horror. He's beyond creative. He has a show called Android Vision, and it is really well put together and really well done. And he puts a lot of love and passion into it. It's very high quality. He has the finest women who just try to keep up with his hotness on the show. He's part of one half of the hosting team that is Cemetery Gates podcast with Sandra Kane, who we've had on the show before. He is Android Virus. Android, thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. This is awesome. This is weird, but cool.
It's always weird because I give these really long intros to make people feel self-conscious about how awesome they are. So I hope I did that for you. That was my goal.
I got chills. I don't know if you
can. So we're just fresh off of doing recording for It's Not Horror. And to give you an idea of the kind of sense of humor that this gentleman has, we were talking about Halloween Kills, and he made a joke about everyone killing the guy that looks like Humpty Dumpty. And I've been laughing about that for 3 days still.
Really? Wow.
So funny and just perfect timing. Android has the ability to time things perfectly. Now we'll get into your podcasting, I guess, how you got into that. But first questions first, how did you get into horror?
Horror, how did I get into it? I would say, and this is weird because I'm probably going to go a lot deeper than most because it's pretty much ingrained to me, I would say. Just my dad, I would say, the quick answer. He would take me to movies as a little kid, and I honestly, and I'm gonna tell you, this will completely describe my personality. So the first 4 movies I ever remember seeing in the movie theaters as a child was Grease, Conan the Barbarian,
Nice,
The Road Warrior, and and Creep Show.
Oh fuck yeah.
Yeah, Creep Show. But and that was cool. I mean, I always remember being a little kid, like growing up in a Catholic household, like a Hispanic Catholic household. Like movies were taboo, right? Like about Satan, especially about Satan. Like, you got the Exorcists, the Omens, and but Catholics being Catholics, you kind of want to cross that line. And anyways, I grew up with those movies in the house, and those really didn't scare me a whole lot because my mom really shielded me from those. But having 2 older sisters and being a child of the 80s, my older sisters would be like, "You're watching this movie with me. Don't tell mom and dad." And I would say the first movie that really traumatized me as a kid, and I'm talking like traumatized me, fucked me up, was A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, really? Nice.
So wow. 84, VHS, my mom and dad's living room, blinds drawn, curtains drawn, completely fucked up. And I would say the second one that really fucked me up, and I remember it was like my 7th or 8th birthday, was Friday the 13th Part 4, The Final Chapter. Wow. And it fucked me up, like as a little kid. I'm not gonna lie, like had to sleep with mommy fucked up. And so I really like the way my mind works. I like no horror. It's scary. What I know now as an adult, was like, it induced anxiety and all kinds of shit. And I think somewhere along the way, and again, I'm going to get deep here, my parents had split up. We would go with my dad for the weekend. He would do the dad weekend thing and take us to movies. And I think it was just kind of a perfect lightning of being the age I was, going to dad's house on the weekend, having a good time, but he took us to see the Dream Warriors. And whereas I was completely terrified of Freddy Krueger and anything to do with Nightmare on Elm Street, it was like the Dream Warriors was this fantasy film, right? Like it wasn't just a horror movie. It was cool. It was a fantasy horror movie, and I was like, wow, I like this. And then I've always liked heavy metal because, and then Dokken plays at the end the Dream Warrior song, and I'm like, it was like the lightning struck, you know. And I think after then, just being a little kid, growing up with the kids I did in the neighborhood, completely suburban America, even though I was in New Mexico, we could go to the local mom and pop video store and rent whatever fucking movies we wanted, and it was on. We just, from the age of 11 and 12, but we got hard. Like it was Faces of Death, it was I Spit on Your Grave, you know, all those fucked up movies, you know, Toxic Avenger, and I think at that time, at that age, I just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
That's it. And it slowly became like a security blanket.
That's
so
awesome.
something that was like completely traumatic to me as a kid that would keep me up at night. I mean, I would look at the back of a cover when I was 8 years old, and it would scare the shit out of me. That I was just, I mean, I could call myself, my little kid self, a little pussy, but you know, I was like completely scared, right? And as I grew up, it was just like, wow. And then it became a security blanket. Then it became an obsession.
And that probably led to podcasting. Were you going to say something, Scott? Sorry.
I was like, hence why we are all here.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
So how did you get into podcasting? I know you have a current podcast now, but was there a history prior to that?
Yeah, there was. So this goes way back, and this is where I met Xander, actually, a buddy of mine, who I had met at work. He introduced me to a website, and this is before social media. So maybe MySpace was around, but before any social media was around, he introduced me to a website called Killer Reviews. And Killer Reviews, he's like, bro, it's for guys like us. You know, it was old message boards, right? I don't know if you guys remember the messaging boards, board days.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, and whoever his name is Greg Dumont, dropping names, Butcher, ran the Killer Reviews website, and I don't know, it was just the message boards. I always put crazy shit like I do now, right?
No.
But it was the Wild West, right? Like, so anything went. I mean, within reason.
There was no
right?
Zuckerberg then. No one holding you back, Android.
No, but I mean, I don't have lines. Like, I'm not putting fucking animal torture videos up or anything like that. You know what I mean? Yes, I have my lines, but I was just putting like puke videos ad nauseum, you know, shit like that. So, anyways, Killer Reviews had a really successful podcast, one of the original horror podcasts out there. It doesn't get the recognition that it deserves. I mean, it was well before its time. And so the guy that ran the podcast, his name was Butcher. He originally did it with his brother. His brother dropped off, and then he ran with it with Mr. Greg Mo Roberts. I think I've name dropped him. He's from Canada as well.
Yes, you have. Yeah.
And Xander Kane, he was on there too. And everybody, we clamored for the Killer Reviews podcast. Oh, the new podcast is coming out. Just us group of horror nerds. And Butcher hit me up, and he's like, dude, you're so fucking funny. And I'm like, oh, thank you. And he's like, just the shit you fucking post, just your responses to people. He goes, I want you on the podcast, just a guest.
Nice.
I said, okay, cool. And then I think after the third show, he's like, he kind of gave me the official invite, you know. He's like, all right, dude. So I'm like, I'm a made man now, you know. And then you know, personal shit happens. The podcast went defunct. He had to end it, and that's where me and Xander, him and I, always got along really well. And probably about a year after the podcast ended is when we started the Cemetery Gates. Awesome. And I mean, I was a novice, didn't know how to edit, didn't know how to do shit, just never went to school for it. Just learned, and did some other podcasts that are no longer around, and so here I am.
So I'll ask one quick other little question, and you can provide as much as you want. You also have this little thing called Android Vision.
Right.
So when did Android Vision fit into this whole thing?
Okay, so we will go back to Killer Reviews, but we'll go a little bit further back. And this is going to kind of tie into the original question that you had for me regarding the when did you fall in love with horror? So I will go back to that a little bit. When I was a little kid, obviously, even though I say I was terrified of horror and different things like that, when I specifically remember in kindergarten going to the library, right? Teachers take your little kids to the library. And I remember seeing a section of orange spined books, and they were these monster books. Like you had Frankenstein, you had the werewolf. And I'll have to remember the name. I have actually procured one book because they're in the hundreds of dollars right now if you need to collect them.
Oh wow.
Something house, I forget. But anyways, each cover, I even tattooed the Wolfman right here.
Very
That's on the
nice.
cover of the book. So anyways, I wanted to look like the Wolfman or something weird when I was a little kid, and I just fell in love with horror. I had my birthdays around Halloween time. I remember painting my face up and telling my mom, I want to rent really fun, weird movies for my friends to watch. So it kind of started there. And then fast forwarding back to Killer Reviews, they used to do, because it was so interactive, that website, Butcher set up this thing called KR Movie Night. So Killer Reviews Movie Night. And he did it every night, Friday night. He set up a chat room. You know, the guy wrote script, built programs. He knew what he was doing. And then he eventually handed me the reins. He's like, dude, I want you to run my Killer Reviews Movie Night. And it was kind of like old school chat room. Everybody jumps in, everybody, chats, and we watch a horror movie. I eventually, from that point, started making graphics for it, where you kind of see those old school drive-in double feature theater stuff. I started making graphics for Killer Reviews as far as that is concerned. Like, hey, tonight, double feature, blah, 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 blah. So after Killer Reviews went defunct, the guy who originally started editing my stuff, his name is Sean. He doesn't have anything to do with the podcast world or Android Vision anymore. Just he had kids, so no time.
Yeah.
Good guy though.
I get that.
Yeah. So Sean, he said, "Hey man," I said, "Yeah," because we used to do a podcast called Android Virus and Sean Show, which was insane. Yeah. So Sean actually had to stop doing that show for the same reason, didn't have time. He goes, dude, you need to do a fucking horror show like Killer Reviews, but you need to host it. Let's do this shit. So got everything, built a set, built miniatures, and kind of wrote what we wanted. Sean and I have a really good back and forth. You think I'm funny? I wish Sean would jump back into the podcast world. But anyways, kind of started with Sean. He encouraged me to do it. He's like, dude, this is you. Just do your fucking persona, dude. Do your crazy shit, because you guys kind of get a little bit of it on the other podcast, but
yeah.
Oh yeah.
It allows me to channel or filter what's crazy in here into something, right? Because I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a family man. I fucking work 40 or 80 hours every 2 weeks, and so people don't see that part of me, right?
Yeah.
They don't see that, I got kids and bills and all that shit. So this shit is just something to help me get all this crazy out.
Well, you say crazy, but Andrew, you are one of the most creative, funny, talented people I've ever met. It really is a privilege to know you and to get gotten to know you over the last 2 years. And one day I will make it to New Mexico. One day, Android, and we're gonna get
you're gonna be like everybody else when you see me. Be like, dude, you're short.
I'm gonna be like, I didn't know you were this short. Scott, look, finding someone as short as you. Better. Scott, come down with me.
So Android Vision, it kind of took off, and it took a life of its own, and it's actually changed a lot of cast members. And if anybody out there is wondering what it is, it's a horror hosted web show, like Elvira, like Joe Bob Briggs, like all that fun shit. We do it once a month. I write it, I produce it. I recently started directing and editing it on my own as well. So it's been a process, and I find that like the more hands that I have help with, it's great. But then you just kind of meet people who kind of fall out, and it's cool. And I don't hate anybody, but it's people fall out, people move away, shit happens. And it's just kind of, I find it's better in my own hands, and it's not like, it's not a control, it's not a control thing. Like, oh, it's gotta be my way. It's just, I need people dependable. I need people who are willing to work and I pay, I do pay for this. Hi, puppy.
Oh man. Hey, shit. I didn't know he paid. You gotta get on nudie for not paying us for It's Not Horror. That's all I
shit,
gotta
right?
say.
Yeah, I mean, it's time. It's a hobby, but it's a little bit more than that. And you know what? To be honest with you, I have the most encouraging, awesome bitch of a wife.
Yeah, Rachel's pretty badass.
Yeah,
like,
right. She is amazing.
She's like the queen. Like honestly.
Yeah, like think of like if Danny Trejo was a female, maybe the attitude.
Like only hot though.
Yeah, but hot.
Like
yeah.
Rachel's hot, right? So let's make sure like she's a good looking lady. Right.
But,
so
honestly, like I really have to like if I didn't have like her support, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you do what makes you happy. And then I don't have a wife who's like, we gotta go do this, we gotta do that, we gotta go to church today. It's like, no, she's like, you do what makes you happy. And then she's also the person who reels me back in, who is like, hey, slow down, which is what I need, right? Like,
oh yeah,
podcasting too much, putting a little bit too much energy into this, reel it back a little, you're gonna burn yourself out, or whatever the case may be. She's my right hand woman.
Yeah.
But she refuses to be on camera. She refuses to podcast. She refuses to do any of that shit. She's not a part of any of the process, other than she is the person who grounds me, which is really cool. So.
Yeah, and we need that.
And we've spoken to her a handful of times.
Yeah.
Over the years, and she's really cool.
Yeah,
she's really cool.
The stories she has to say.
Yes. She and you and her are like the dynamite couple. So thank you so much for being here with us today. It really means a lot to us, Android. You really truly are one of our favorite people. So
absolutely,
yeah.
Thank you.
So, and we chose our topic. So with thinking of you in mind. So Scotty, why don't you introduce our topic and what your number 5 is?
All right. So the topic is top 5 1970s films. We'll do round robin style. So I'll go first, my number 5, then Android, then Heather. We are going to save the honorable mentions for after we do our top 5. That way we can just kind of give some shout outs. But yeah, I will start it off with my number 5, which is, I'll go with the tagline first. Ask her no questions. She'll tell you no lies. Ask her too many questions and somebody dies. And that is The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane from 1976. Very young Jodie Foster in one of her first ever movies. I think probably like her second film. But holy shit, I watched this last year for the first time ever, and it's one of those films that has just stuck with me since. Like, the more I sat with it, the more and more I loved it. It's because she's a young girl who is supposed to be living with her parents, and all of a sudden her parents are not there and she's by herself, and these adults and neighbors keep coming by and asking questions, and just some of them mysteriously disappear. And it's just a very interesting, like, horror thriller drama. Like, if you have not seen this, it is very well acted, well performed, well shot, very intriguing story. And for being 13 years old, Jodie Foster was an incredible little actress, and it's no wonder where she is today. Like, I love this movie.
That's cool. I still haven't watched this, Scotty, and I need to. You've talked about it a lot, though.
Me neither. That sounds cool.
One for the list,
very
Android.
Yeah, for sure. I need to check that out. I like 70s movies, and I'm glad you guys had me in mind and for this almost impossible task.
We really wanted to make it stressful for you, so we hope we did. That was absolutely our goal.
So I swear to God, I started off with a list of about 20 movies, 30 movies, and I'm like, fuck, how do I take this out? Fuck. Like, it took me like a good week, but I finally whittled it down to a list that I did not want to give your listeners, or most like horror podcast listeners, that is, I don't know, we'll say, as much as horror is not vanilla, I didn't want to give you guys a vanilla list. I didn't.
I'll say that's. And I'll say, I forgot to mention. Right, I was gonna say, we knew you would bring a unique list.
We knew.
And like,
very cool.
And that's kind of one of the things I do when I do the top 5 list, is because top 5, it's very hard because it could just be all the big hitters that you know, and everybody could have that list. So it's like, I usually will cut most of them out, sprinkle a couple in my top 5, but I want to bring stuff that's a little less known.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm going to start off, and I'm going in order of the year, right? So my first pick is 1970s Equinox.
Equinox.
Yes, and the tagline of the movie is the evil devil cult that enslaves and destroys. Equinox, a cult barrier between good and evil, supernatural. Now, not a lot of well-known actors in here other than the guy who just passed away from WKRP in Cincinnati. I'm probably aging myself. Frank Bonner. He was in it. But so I'm going to preface this with this. This movie has influenced a lot, and I will say that the popular, huge hit for the genre, which is Evil Dead, would not exist if it was not for this film.
Really?
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and I actually had showed this movie on Android Vision last year sometime, and my friend who is a huge Evil Dead fan, right in the middle, is like, got really sad. He's like, "Wait, Evil Dead's not original?" Like the whole like Book of the Dead. So basically, this film was originally a short film in 1969, and the guys that made it actually got the money and made it to a full feature film. And pretty much what the movie is about is a Book of the Dead and a professor in the forest fucking around with it and breaks a veil down between this world and another world. And creatures start coming through this world and either possessing people, and you're seeing giants come through the other world, flying fucking creatures with talons, and basically this other world maybe could be hell, it could be another dimension. We don't know what this other world is, but he breaks the barrier down between this world and that world in a forest. And
seeing similarities here.
So four college students go to try to search for their professor, but to see where he's at, and they can't find him. And as they turn around, you see these tentacles come up and engulf the cabin that the professor was in, and they're walking, and they're like, "Hey, what is this cabin doing? Or not this cabin, this castle doing here from another dimension? Like, when was there a castle ever built in these woods?" And okay, so the graphics in it, a lot of stop motion animation, a lot of forced perspective, giants, and other worlds. I would even throw Phantasm as taking from this movie, because when they hop into the other reality, it's red with the druids walking. So I'm not going to give a whole lot away about it. There's some really fucking cool things in it, but it's 1970s Equinox. I highly fucking suggest it. And I will say that this goddamn movie has influenced things from Phantasm all the way up through the Evil Dead. It's amazing.
That's really cool.
You've sold me on this movie. I'm going to be watching this as soon as I freaking can.
Probably tonight is what he's going to do.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, Scott's awesome. Gonna be like, "Scott, it's down your alley, bro."
Oh yeah, it is a total Scotty movie.
And again, the graphics are not that great. The acting isn't even that great, but it's stop motion animation, Ray Harryhausen type of shit. But
I love that shit.
And it's a slow build, but once it gets there, it's cool. But yeah, check it out. That's one of my tops of the 70s, Equinox. So there you have it.
Nice.
Thank you, Android. So the 70s is actually not my favorite era of films. Now, that being said, that was before I started to watch more movies from the 1970s. So over the past 2 years since I got into podcasting, I really pushed myself to go beyond my comfort zone. So I have watched actually a lot of 1970 movies, comparably to where I was at 2 years ago. So my list will probably not be as exciting, but it won't be like, the major franchises. Well, maybe one or two, but I have some other stuff on my list. And the first one is The Wicker Man, 1970.
Nice.
And I have never seen the remake. I hear it's absolutely dreadful, so I probably won't. I love this original movie with Sergeant Howie going to this island. And what I like about 70s horror is that there's a lot more character development and subtle horror. The Wicker Man doesn't necessarily start off being scary right away. It's more of a mystery. It's creepy. Mm-hmm. Where is this kid? What are all these creepy things that are happening? Christopher Lee does an excellent job, as I have the name here, as Lord Summerside. Excellent. Beautiful dialogue, beautifully shot. As the movie goes, it gets increasingly creepier and just more disturbing. And I feel like that's something the 70s captured really well. Not having the special effects that we have nowadays, they could just rely on CGI. They could be like, I'll just throw some CGI and make it look really cool, and that will be enough. You had to rely on line delivery, plot development, and of course, I think the ending scene of The Wicker Man stands out. I don't want to give anything away for people who haven't seen it. So that's definitely
Is it the My Eyes,
the bees. Yes.
But that's the new one, right? The Nicolas Cage.
The
Yeah.
bees is the Nicolas Cage part for the remake. But it is an incredible, well-acted film, beautifully filmed. It's a longer film. It's about 2 hours, I believe, in length. So, you are investing in it in a period of time. But I definitely think if you like mystery and horror and cults mixed in together, it's your jam.
Awesome.
Nice. This one is one of my all-time favorite folk horror films, and that just missed my list.
I'm glad I included it then.
Yeah, because I wanted to add it, but I'm going, just so tough to decide what I wanted to keep, what I didn't want to keep. Yeah, I love this freaking movie.
Well, that's the point of our list, right?
Exactly. So yeah, I will go around to number 4, and it kind of got sort of briefly mentioned earlier, but I'll do the tagline again just because I'm having fun reading this tagline on Letterboxd. If this one doesn't scare you, you're already dead. Good old 1979 Phantasm. This is probably like one of the 2 bigger named ones on my list. But Phantasm is just one of those films I had to add just because it's so nightmarish and creepy and just so freaking out there and weird. Like it's not really, there's not many films that kind of take on the persona that this film and the franchise ended up becoming. It is just so freaking bizarre and is something I don't think could have ever been made now, just because it's definitely a child of that late 70s, early 80s fucking drug rattled mind. Just it's and with freaking Angus Scrim playing the tall man. God, so just creepy the way he acts throughout this whole film. Like he acts otherworldly, and just the way he looks, the way he walks, the way he talks, everything about him is just creepy. And
boy.
Yeah.
And he's got just some amazing lines even throughout the whole franchise. And Don Coscarelli freaking knocked it out of the park with this film. It is something that I love to watch at least once a year. Like I go through the entire franchise because it's just so crazy and wild. And you have such amazing characters as Reggie and fucking Michael, and it's just amazing film. I mean, obviously a lot of people probably seen this being horror fans, especially if you've been in the genre a long time, but it's one that I had to bring to the table.
For sure. Awesome.
Yeah, that was gonna go into an honorable mention. So
nice.
Yeah, that movie holds a special place in my heart. And Mr. Xander Kane was nice enough to procure, I think I'm using the right word, a original art piece of Phantasm for me.
Oh, nice.
But there was like 222 made or something like that, and I got number 11.
That's awesome.
And sent it to me in the mail. It's like it rolls out like a scroll and has like
cool.
Has the ball going into some guy's head, and my wife was nice enough to frame it for me. So yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, like in the car in Phantasm. Fuck.
Yes.
That's a star.
Oh, dude, that car is amazing. Isn't that a Barracuda?
1971.
Yeah.
That's right, baby. If you like muscle cars, that movie's all about it too. So very cool,
yes,
man.
It is.
Yeah.
So what is your number 4, Android?
All right. So my number 4, and fuck you, Nudie. I'm just gonna we're gonna go we'll go like that. But this is 1971's Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
Nice. I was trying to get a chance to watch that this week, but I did not have the time.
Have either of you seen it?
I have not.
Heather?
No, but I've heard of it and I need to watch it.
Yeah, so it's basically, I'll put it to you this way. First things first, I'm not quite sure about the release of the movie. All I know is, and this is just kind of a funny little backstory. I'm like, okay, so I married an older woman, right? So like Rachel is 5 or 6 years older than me. So a lot of the girls like that I know, like when I was like in middle school or whatever, were a lot older than me. But anyways, So a lot of these girls have memories of movies that were on TV or late at night more than I do. And when I had mentioned this movie to Rachel and another friend of ours, Sabrina, they're like, "Oh my God, I remember that movie used to play late at night on Channel 4, blah, 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 blah." And it's like, what? They played this movie on Channel 4 late at night? And what was really funny is I had a Facebook memory pop up from 11 years ago. And one of our local stations was playing Let's Scare Jessica to Death at 2 p.m. in the afternoon on a Sunday. I was like, what the fuck? This is weird. So anyways, basically Let's Scare Jessica to Death. It's about a woman who, first things first, it's a horror drama supernatural film, so it's not fast paced. There's no gore in it. It all depends on dialogue and storytelling and cinematography. Nudie hates this movie because he thinks it's boring as shit, but like I tell Nudie and some other people who really hate movies like this, I have to tell them, hey man, some of us have a palate for fine wine and some of us don't. I don't know what to tell you, man. They go, fuck you. You know, that's just a fuck you to me. You're telling me I don't have good taste. And I'm just like, look, man, I'm not saying you don't have good taste. All of us just have different tastes, and some of our palate is a little bit more richer than others.
I love it.
That's really funny.
So it's, yeah, I know it's a fucking backhanded compliment or whatever, fucking total passive aggressive bullshit. But anyways, so basically it's about a woman who was released from a mental hospital, and her husband had to give up his job in the New York Philharmonic to take care of her. So there's already some tension there. There's already some, you know, the rolling of the eyes. I had to give up my life for you, and she's a fragile person, you can tell. So they buy a house in, like, you know, some backwoods area, and they're kind of hippie friends helping them put the house together, and they're just trying to make a new life, right? And it's about her. We want to make sure she's fragile. We love her. We want to make sure. There's some weird tension between her and the hippie friend, and they pick up a girl from the who's hitchhiking, and they're like, yeah, come along, it's the 70s, let's hang out, let's swing. I don't know, but anyways,
70s.
yeah. So the girl, her sanity's already in question, right? And she's seeing things. She's seeing a girl dressed in a white dress coming out of a lake. She doesn't know what she's seeing, but her sanity's already in question, and we're questioning her sanity as well. And her husband's already questioning her sanity. The hippie friend, he's trying to be as thoughtful and helpful with her as he can, and then they bring this third party in who is kind of low-key seducing everybody, including her husband, including the hippie friend, including maybe her, we don't know. And then the lady from the lake could be seducing her, we don't know. But then as you kind of go throughout the movie, is Jessica really crazy? We don't know. But the town is just full of men. There's no women in this town other than this ghost chick from the lake and the hitchhiker they picked up, and Jessica. And slowly just stuff starts kind of unraveling. You're seeing weird things. She's picturing people dead, but are they really dead? And then she starts noticing that all the men in this town have this weird like slice on their neck, or weird little cuts on their neck. And is the hitchhiker a vampire? And is her husband and then she starts to see the husband has a slit on her neck. The hippie friend has a slit on the neck. I don't want to really give away where this goes, but it's just a weird fucking dreamy twilighty, not in the movie Twilight, but that weird dreamy 70s, you know, that weird feel to it. Completely story driven, like I said. Kind of ambiguous. The ending is very ambiguous. It leaves you up to, could this have happened? Is it in her head? Is this really what the fuck is going on? And that's what I really liked about it, because the movie gives enough, what can I say? What's the word I'm looking for? The movie respects the viewer enough to make up your own mind.
Awesome.
Whereas a lot of movies don't do that, in my opinion. So this movie really respects you as the viewer. You come up with the conclusion. What do you think happened? Cool. And that's why I really like this movie. So there you go. That's my pick.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for bringing it to the table.
Yes, ma'am.
Mine is not going to be a surprise to Scotty because he doesn't like this movie, but it is Don't Look Now from 1973 with Mr. Donald Sutherland.
I tried.
And
I tried.
Julia Christie. It is very much a horror drama as well, probably more of a drama. I would definitely probably not slap horror on this for everybody, but I saw this movie for the first time earlier this year when I was trying to expand my 1970s watching, and I just bought into this couple. Donald Sutherland's performance and Julia Christie's performance is fucking incredible. And the grieving that they go through and the loss of their daughter and the path that she takes to get closure regarding the loss of their daughter is intense and really is the downfall of what happens to this couple. And then a very tragic, upsetting event happens at the end. Something that stands out to me in this movie that is not necessarily horror is the realisticness of their lovemaking scene. Incredibly realistic. And they both said they had a lot of fun filming it, and I can imagine they did.
Were they really making love? Possibly.
You know what? They've never become clean and really said what they were doing for sure. And Donald Sutherland was pretty fucking hot, and so was she. So I know if I was either one of them, I would definitely be banging. For sure. But this movie is very much a slow burn. You do kind of have to go into it prepared for very much a relationship grieving film that's going to build on grief, basically. So be warned, but I think it's one of the better made films that have come out in the 70s for myself personally. So that is my number 4.
Awesome.
Yep, I tried this one. I gave it a second watch this year because the first time I watched it, I just couldn't get into it. And the second time watch, I liked it a little more. But yeah, I think it's just the story. And like you said, it is a very, very, very slow burn. But I do have to say the performances are out of this world. And it's such a well-made movie. And I can see why it is on your list and why so many people in the horror genre love it. It just did not work for me, unfortunately. I tried.
That's okay.
Hey, you know what? We give you credit for trying, sir.
Not everyone's palate is as fine as mine. And
Exactly.
Clearly.
Exactly.
So
you guys can steal that one. Have it. It's yours.
We're going to use it with Nudie all the time. Scotty, bring us in with your number 3.
All right. So my number 3, I kind of briefly teased Heather about this one before, saying that one of my favorite movies of this decade. And that is, well, once again, I'll start off with the tagline. She's living in the gateway to hell. And that is 1977's The Sentinel. Right off the bat, I have to say the cast in this is absolutely freaking insane. You have Chris Sarandon, John Carradine, Ava Gardner, Burgess Meredith, Beverly D'Angelo, and freaking Jeff Goldblum. It's freaking stacked cast, and it's about this woman that's this actress that is trying to find an apartment. And she gets this apartment where a lot of the people that are there are very weird and eccentric. And as the movie progresses, you basically find out that this apartment has a nun living in the very top floor by herself, and she's a blind nun that's always staring out the window. And you find out later that she is basically the guardian of this apartment because this apartment is on the gateway to hell. And yeah, that is why you see a lot of weird, eccentric characters in this. And it is so just weird and creepy, and the performances are all super good. And yeah, there are some awkward moments too where you get like Beverly, like she's going to visit like her lesbian neighbors, and like Beverly D'Angelo is one of the girlfriends, and as she's talking to them, all of a sudden Beverly D'Angelo just starts masturbating in front of her, and just like weird shit's going on in this. Like it's
wait, are you saying this movie has a Beverly D'Angelo masturbation scene?
Yep, like she's topless and basically just wearing like spandex.
Watching that tonight.
Wearing spandex
Rachel?
and rubbing the spandex. So yeah, it is very weird and unsettling and creepy. I watched this probably I'd say about 10 or so years ago, and it's just something that I have to always revisit now because it's just so kind of disturbing in a way. And it's kind of reminds me of like this could have fit in with like a Lucio Fulci Gates of Hell trilogy with less gore. It's just very out of this world, just creep factor. But yeah, that is my number 3, The Sentinel.
Nice. I think I've seen it.
I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if you have.
I think I have. Yeah, I think I have. So I'm doing number 3 now.
Yep.
Number three?
Sure.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna start this off with again, I'm going in order. So this is another 1971 movie. I had 2 1971 movies. Obviously, Let's Scare Jessica to Death. And this is my next one. It's a psychological thriller, actually. But I think this movie is really horrific in its own right, which is 1971 Sam Peckinpah's Straw Dogs.
Oh, I've heard a
nice
lot about
pick.
Straw Dogs. That's cool.
Yeah, so it stars Dustin Hoffman, a very young Dustin Hoffman, and if you guys don't know who Sam Peckinpah is, he's obviously he died in 1984, but I mean he wrote the Wild Bunch. I mean he has written a lot of movies, but just the way he directs and he writes, it's just he's very in your face, and he's well known to put his actors through a lot of fucking grimy shit during filming. Like, we're gonna get some realism out of you guys. So R.I.P. to Mr. Sam Peckinpah. So essentially, this movie is noted for its violent sequences and a couple of, and I will say, they say complicated rape scenes. Yes, some very complicated rape scenes in this movie, and we'll get a little bit more into that. But essentially, the movie is about Dustin Hoffman is a writer, and he moves to the English countryside with his beautiful wife, who's English, and the town is basically kind of rednecky, kind of backwoodsy. And it's just well known that these dudes are just weird rednecks, backwoods dudes. She does have a brief history with one of the guys. And so what Dustin Hoffman does is he hires a crew of guys to rebuild, because it's her family's property, to rebuild the farm. So these guys are rebuilding the farm, but they're just kind of like those, again, the English version of Good Old Boys, you know, whose dick's bigger. And they think Dustin Hoffman's kind of a lesser than because he's kind of short and he's got glasses and he's a writer, but yet he's got money and he's got appeal and he's able to score this really hot babe who was the hottest babe of the town, and she's moved away to America and now she's back, but she's unsatisfied. Dustin Hoffman is way too much into his work, and he's a little bit of a dick. He's a little bit of a dick to her too. He's kind of smarmy, but not like completely hateable. But she gets bored one day and she flashes her tits to one of the guys working on the barn house, and he gets the wrong idea. And but she is lonely, right? So this is kind of where it goes into the complicated rape scene. You don't want to, it's weird. You want to really be careful with this topic and the subject, because
Yeah, of course.
she didn't invite it, but yet this guy has the wrong idea. Hey, she flashed me her tits. She wants to fuck me, right? So they develop a plan to take Dustin Hoffman out hunting. Have you ever been hunting before, mate? No. Let's go hunting. So they go hunting, and then two of the guys take off and stay behind, and they go back to the cabin and they rape her, and it happens. And but she's very torn and she's very drawn because she was attracted to one of the guys, and it really kind of it blurs that line of, did she like it? Did she ask for it? It's so
very much a
weird.
1970s film that questions, like, obviously we all know consent is consent, but this film is exploring something from a different time period, right? And asking, you know, did she want to have sex and then was choosing not to because of how it looked in society? Like, it's actually really examining what exactly sexual relationships are, right? For 1970s, right? Like, let's remember 1970s
absolutely.
Again, right? So
and it happens again, but with the other guy, but she kind of welcomed that one though, because she had sex with him, so she had sex with her rapist. So but that one was a little bit more, it's weird. You know what I mean?
Sounds like a really complicated film, to be honest.
Very complicated, but it really culminates at the end, because there's a death and there's the revenge from these guys, and I mean, the end is insane. The last half hour to 45 of this movie minutes of this movie is so relenting, insane, because it just becomes a home invasion film, and it becomes this couple defending themselves, and it becomes it's just insane. I don't want to give, again, when I do my reviews or when I do my presentations of movies, I don't like to give away too many spoilers, but I like to give the gist of the movie. There was a remake of this movie in 2011 with a lot of actors. James Marsden, Stellan Skarsgård, James Woods was in it. A lot of actors were in the remake, and the remake is okay. It is okay. I won't shit on the remake, but the original is so fucking good. And it's a great 1970s film, and it really does examine that, just what you said, Heather. Like,
it's a time capsule of looking at sexuality and consent and everything in the 70s. Like, whether we want to admit it or not, how we look at it in 2021 and how it was looked at in 1971 are going to be two very different things.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's good that you gave the spoilers, because I think people should know what they're going into.
Oh yeah.
Like, they should know there's graphic rape repeatedly in this, and that there is a conflicting of whether that sex is appropriate or not. Like, there's obviously some conversations that she's even having within herself on her own sexual, attraction and what she's choosing to consent to or not to consent to. Like, it's a heavy film. I didn't realize it was that heavy. So I'm glad you gave me the heads up, because I didn't know going into it, right? It's a heavy
You'd be
film.
like, Android, what'd you do?
No, I think it's good, though. I think it's a good exploration. Nothing is wrong with exploring that topic, and also seeing how it was explored in 1971.
Yeah,
like,
and I will tell you that this movie was nominated for some Academy Awards.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. It was probably well acted and well done.
Yeah, it's heavy.
Yeah.
And it's fucking violent. It's really violent. So
it sounds violent.
Yeah, so check it out.
Yeah, I ended up seeing the remake, and like you said, it was okay. I do at some point want to check out the original. I did not realize that it was that much darker and harder to watch compared to the remake, because the remake really wasn't that hard. It covered the topic, but it was more modern era.
And if you really get into like the nerdy cinephiles, like people who are really into like more than just horror, you just mention the name Sam Peckinpah, who as a director, and the guy legendarily did put his actors really through a lot of shit, and not in a mean way. He just wanted to bring more out into his actors, more method. It's a rough movie, and Dustin Hoffman, I mean, is in it too. So I mean, he really lends that star credence to this film as well, and he acted everybody acts the shit out of this movie. So highly suggested, really good for 70s film. So
yeah,
all right,
absolutely.
That's my number 3. All right,
That's
Heather.
Awesome. Thanks for bringing that. And I think also for our listeners, we got to remember that 4 years later, we had Solo. Okay, Solo came out in 1975, right? So the 70s were a different time period. So but those films still have their time capsule of history of where they were at that time. And I think deserve to be watched in their purity form. And, that's important.
Have we noticed the theme of, like, in the 70s, like rape, feminism,
very much so,
and the devil,
and the devil, right? And shit eating in Solo.
Manja.
But no, you're right. There's a lot of rape stories in the 70s, and a lot of it blurs the lines between consent and non-consent, and they just didn't use those words back then.
No,
right? It was just different, and I'm really glad you brought that one to the table. It was a good discussion.
Cool.
So for mine, not nearly as exciting, but yet again, another slow burn. It's The Tenant with Roman Polanski.
Nice.
I just saw this movie this year. I was asked to watch it for another podcast that I'm on, and fuck, I loved it. And I didn't think I was gonna like it. Like, I went into this film being like, oh, Roman Polanski, okay. Holy fuck. This is an immigrant in Paris, and he rents an apartment, and similar to kind of what you were talking about earlier, the Sentinel, nothing is as it seems in this apartment building. He finds out that the woman that was living there previously had killed herself, and he slowly feels as though his neighbors are driving him to do the same. And this movie really shows the collapse of somebody's psyche, and Roman Polanski fucking nails it. He is an incredible actor, and he just completely hits this out of the park. I really strongly recommend it to people if you're a Roman Polanski fan, if you like strong slow burns, if you like apartment horror, this is right up there for you. This is a perfect example of dealing with neighbors and how people can start to manipulate you and cultish stuff. Like, it is all that in a bag of chips. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, please do.
Yeah, I was wondering where this would land on your list. I was just this is one that I still need to watch. Like, I was once again trying to get to it this week, just I did not want to watch it at work because I know it's one of those you got to pay more attention to. So I did not do it there. And
Oh,
just
you
never
do
got
that
around to
too,
it.
Scott?
Yeah. Yeah, when the time is slow, I will jump in and throw on like some type of horror film.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, I guess I will go into my number 2, which we will start off once again with the tagline. This tagline is definitely one that will throw you off from what the movie actually is. They tampered with nature. Now they must pay the price. 1974's Living Dead at Manchester Morgue,
Yeah.
also known as Let Sleeping Corpses Lie, also known as Don't Open the Window, also known as Non si deve profanare il sonno dei morti. This is one of my all-time favorite zombie movies. I love that this is not like the zombie events in this film don't happen in your typical fashion of most zombie films. It is done by radiation caused by this machine that is trying to get rid of insects and pests. And somehow this radiation wakes the dead. And these dead are your typical old school Romero style slow moving zombies, except they have these like creepy red eyes and are just very vicious and violent. And like the story is just absolutely incredible. I cannot recommend this one enough. But yeah, this is one, I think, because the only thing that I say is against this is that the main guy is kind of an asshole, and he's the one that you're kind of rooting for, and he's just kind of a piece of shit. But at the same time, like, because him and this girl get into an accident, if I remember correctly, and then they go to her sister's place, and all of a sudden, like, a zombie shows up and kills her sister's husband, and then that zombie tends to follow them as they continue, like, trying to get away from it, and then more zombies appear, and more zombies appear, and yeah, it's super gory, has some definite sexualization in it as well. But this is one that if you are a zombie fan and you have not seen this, I highly recommend Let Sleeping Corpses Lie.
I felt like this one is like, and you get this with like music a lot, right? And I don't care what type of genre of music you get, like, because America's over the pond, right? And we're over the pond, and you get this with music, like, we throw a metal genre back at the UK and they throw a metal genre back at us, and we switch it up and we keep balling it back and forth. And I feel like this was like their version of Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
You know, like this was just like, okay, this is the UK. We're gonna do our version of zombies. And I remember watching this movie, and that's the feel I got in it. Like the movie though, it's really good. It's really cool. But yeah,
I was like, it's very unique in the way that it takes on the zombie genre, I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool too. So awesome. Good pick, man.
Thank you. And what is your number 2 android?
All right. So I'm going to start this off with the tagline. I'm going to bite from you, sir. And it's going to say Peter Fonda and Warren Oates are burning their bridges and a lot of rubber on the deadliest stretch of road in the country. So this movie, again, I'm kind of like, I can't really pick my favorite. So 1975's Race with the Devil. Not sure if you guys have heard of this movie.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. So it's starring Peter Fonda, who was huge in the 70s. You know, he did Easy Rider and all that. And Warren Oates was huge in the 70s as well. Look up Warren Oates. He's in a million of fucking just B movies. And Loretta Swit, who was Colonel, or what was her name? She was in MASH, the blonde. Heather, help me out. I forget.
I don't remember her name. No.
Yes, I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember her name.
Yeah, so this is the second of 3 movies that Fonda and Oates were like in. So like they were buddies, you know. So essentially, what this movie is about is it starts off with Peter Fonda's a dirt bike guy, and so is Warren Oates, and they compete with each other, and not I would say motocross, yeah, because it's dirt bikes. And Warren Oates shows up, and he's like, "Hey, man, I got this new trailer or RV. Look at it; it's got a sink in it." You know, they're just like this badass RV, and they have a really good chemistry. They go back and forth, and I do want to preface this is an action horror film, one of the first of its kind in the 70s, and this is back in the day in the 70s when you could just drive off to the side of the road and camp. Like
Right.
there was no camping spots back then. I mean, you can kind of if you ever read like any like a Jack Kerouac book, he will tell you, man, like you could have just drove to the side of any highway, or we didn't even have highways back then, but like in the side of any interstate, and if you found a spot, you liked it, you camped, and that's the way it was. And a lot of things have changed obviously since the 70s. So you kind of got that, right? So them and their two girls, they got their two dirt bikes strapped on the back of their truck or their RV, and they're going camping. They're going on a road trip. They're getting out of Dodge. And again, they find somewhere on the side of the road, this looks nice. And the girls are playing cards inside, playing pinochle or whatever. And these two guys decide to go for a walk outside, smoking cigarettes or drinking or whatever. And they notice there's like a lake, but in the middle of the lake, there's like a little tuft of land, right? And they notice some fire, like some people out there having a good time. So they pull out their binoculars. I'm like, these people they're nude. Like, they're like, give me those binoculars, let me see. They're having an orgy. And they were having an orgy, and they were nude. And these guys, some of them come out and they're dressed in hoods. They're like druid hoods. And then they're holding up this beautiful blonde, and they're like, what the fuck are they doing? And the next thing you know, a knife plunges into the blonde, and they're like, what the fuck we just see? So they telling the ladies, pack up, we gotta go. And this is in the middle of the night, and they're trying to haul out of Dodge in this campground kind of. And this movie was filmed in Austin, Texas. So it's more hills than campgrounds, but they're trying to drive through a lake, and next thing they know, they got fucking dudes just jumping on their trailer trying to break into it.
Oh wow.
And they're like, what the fuck, we got to get out of here. So they basically just witnessed a satanic sacrifice, and they go to the next rest stop. Fuck, our windows are broken, what the fuck. They get to this, and there's just creepiness going on. Like they go to a large pool, in an RV, and there's just like certain guys just looking at them, staring at them, like, what the fuck. So
Wow.
yeah, so they go back to their trailer, they open up, a rattlesnake jumps out of the cabinet. We got to get out of here. They find their little dog hung up like in the door, like it's strangled, and they're like, again, getting chased again. So they're basically being stalked by a cult, and this is how the movie goes all the way from beginning to end. And all four of them are getting stalked by a cult, but then it just gets this kind of not Mad Maxy feel, but the whole cult is after them at the end of the movie, and they're just on the road. And typical 70s, cars are crashing, cars are flipping, people are on top of RVs, motorcycles, people are getting shot with shotguns, Peter Fonda on top of the RV. And I don't want to give it away at the end of the movie, but it's called Race of the Devil. And the reason why I picked this movie is because I just felt like it was a really good hybrid of those really awesome road chase 1970s films peppered in with like being scared of Satanists and cultists and different things like that. For me, it's a good one, right? Somebody might see it and be like, it's okay. But I think it's an awesome action movie from the 70s that just really showcases that society of people who were into motorbikes and cars and different things, all those gearheads, that really were in the 70s. And then you pepper it in again with Satanism and them getting chased. And it's a pretty relenting film, but it's more action than horror, but definitely horror elements. But yeah, so Race with the Devil, check it out. Gets my fucking A-OK. I like the shit out of it. So there you have it.
Hell yeah. Once again, you are like everything on your list so far I have not seen. So I am adding some shit to my list.
Right? That's why we had Android on here.
Yep.
I told you I was going to give you guys some movies that like...
Oh, we knew.
Yeah, we know you. We knew exactly what you'd be doing.
Purposely, Android. We knew.
Okay, cool.
You bring the knowledge. So my second was Phantasm.
Nice.
But you've already articulated perfectly. So I had a whole bunch listed here, and I was like, oh, Amityville, The Omen. Then I thought, no, Heather, what did you see 3 weeks ago that changed your life completely? And it was Rocky Horror Picture Show. Because I went as that as fucking my Halloween first time ever watch 3 weeks ago. I watched Rocky Horror Picture Show, 1975 with Tim Curry, Susan Sarandon, that other guy, Richard O'Brien, and then Meatloaf. And anyway, I don't know what else to say about this film. I know Android's floored that this was the first time I saw this film, but it was. And I loved it. It's a horror musical done right. This, for me, set the template for what a horror musical should be. Tim Curry's performance is off the fucking charts.
Amazing.
Steals the show. Same with Richard O'Brien. Excellent as Riff Raff. Fuck, like there was a lot of people that were on Broadway that came on and did this movie, and it's so good. Even that song, touch me, I want to be dirty. I love it. I'm like, that's me. I always want to be dirty. So I totally feel what she's putting down. And just the way it moves and how it's making fun of old B science fiction movies, and I just love it. And you know, if I can't say Phantasm, I'm going to say my newly loved 70 film is number 2, The Rocky Horror Picture Show.
And not to mention, I mean, it's really a mad scientist film.
Yes,
Dr. Frankenfurter.
Absolutely.
And how ballsy of it to really cross the barriers of sexuality.
Yes,
huge at that time. Even
gender,
now, right?
Yeah, and gender. You know, like if even if you're not gay, if you weren't slightly turned on by Dr. Frankenfurter's hips and the way he swung those hips, then I guess you're just not a human being.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everyone was turned on. That's why he got with the girl and the guy. Like,
yeah, he got with Brad and.
No one was resisting him, right? It's just such a fun film. We talked about it already in our Halloween episode, but I fucking love it. Number 2.
There you go.
But the funny thing is, that was also a first time watch for me about, I'd say 5 weeks ago.
So my daughter bought that movie for me on VHS, and it's still sealed in the box.
That's
nice,
awesome. Very cool.
I'm not opening it.
No, I don't blame you.
Little time capsule, right?
It absolutely is.
All right, Scotty, we've come to the final event. Number 1. All right,
my number 1. It is going to be one of the like more well-known movies out there, but I could not leave this off the list because this is in my top 5 horror films of all time. And that I will do with the tagline as always, and this one will definitely give it away. In space, no one can hear you scream. And I am talking Ridley Scott's 1979 Alien. Fucking holy shit. This movie is just everything that I could ever want in a science fiction horror film. These set designs are freaking incredible. The cast is amazing. The creature effects and design with the H.R. Geiger inspired, like sexualized design of the beast. This movie is everything that I've loved about horror. And it's one of those that I've always talked about where you hide your creature in shadows a lot if you don't have the budget. Well, this movie had the budget and they still decided to hide the creature in shadows, but that's just because the shadows work so well with the freaking xenomorph. The Nostromo is basically a floating haunted house movie. Like, it's just, the alien could be anywhere. It just blends in with everything. And it is so just freaking creepy. And to this day, still holds up, like, with everything it does. The computers are about the only thing that kind of truly date it.
Yeah.
But everything else about this movie is just incredible. The world building. And like just from the first movie, the world building is insane. Where you see the dead corpse of the engineer on the old like giant rail gun on the planet, and like how terrifying is it to deal with a monster that is like so quick, nimble, and agile, and that also when you hurt it and wound it, it bleeds freaking acid. It's like
there's no escape.
Yeah, literally. Like this thing is like got self-defense mechanisms up the ass, and it is just one of the most creepiest films I'd ever watched when I was a kid, and love the shit out of it to this day.
Wasn't it like one of the most ripped off films after that as well?
Oh yeah.
Oh yes. Sure. Yeah, especially if you think Galaxy of Terror.
Well, yeah, it's funny. I did I think we did Galaxy of Terror and Android Vision, and I really try to break down when I do that show a lot of history of the movie, backgrounds, different things, just fun facts about the movies basically, and essentially this movie was actually supposed to be made by Roger Corman, and a bigger studio got its hands on it and outbid him, and that was his Galaxy of Terror was his fuck you to aliens and Roger
That's
Corman.
Great.
And what's really funny about Galaxy of Terror, you see a lot of those lithograph backgrounds. So what a lithograph is a lot of people don't know is perfect example. If you watch RoboCop, right, and you see the building that's in the beginning of RoboCop, they actually built or painted a picture that made the building look bigger, and then the way they film it, it's a forced perspective. It really looks like the picture's that big. So that's kind of, so not lithograph. I'm probably fucking it up. Anyways, James Cameron was hired for Galaxy of Terror to do those paintings and do the background and do all that stuff. Which is funny because he's brought back to do the sequel to Alien. It's like he's got it down. But yeah, so you see James Cameron's fingerprints in Galaxy of Terror, but goddamn, you can't. I mean, it was for rightfully it was given to the right hands, right? So
yes,
Corman, he didn't Corman it up.
Yeah, exactly. Because like Alien is just so incredible, and there's a reason why it is such a popular franchise to this day.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Awesome.
So Android,
all right,
with your number one.
All right, so I'm going international, and I'm going south of the border, and this is absolutely my number one 70s horror movie for right now until something comes up from the cracks and bites me in the ass. But this one movie is called Alucarda.
Nice.
La Hija de las Tinieblas. So it's I don't know if you guys have heard of Alucarda or know what it's about.
Nope.
I have heard and know what it's about because of podcasts. And
there you go.
I wanted to see.
So the movie is a Mexican production, but it was shot in English. So the women, they did speak English in the movie, and it was released in all kinds of different titles. I actually own 2 Alucarda shirts that I cannot wear to work. Essentially, the movie is about 2 girls that grow up together in a orphanage in a convent. So they're going to be raised to be nuns, basically, but they call themselves sisters, but there is some sexual tension between them too. So there's some stuff going on there. But they meet a gypsy in the woods, a very creepy guy. And, kind of fast forward to one of the girls feels like Satan's calling her. She's feeling the call. She's, so it's a very Catholic film, right? In that sense of the word. And she's feeling the call of Satan and she can't resist it no more. And before you know it, the crazy, rainy, stormy, windy night, the gypsy that was in the woods is now in the room, and he's like, yes, give your life to Satan, and the girl is giving her life to Satan, and she is spouting as loud as she can at the top of her lungs, naked, bending backwards, holding a knife. Every fucking black metal band that I don't like, but like Beelzebub, just like all these demonic names, and it's placed in a Catholic church. So the girl starts to get possessed, but then her sister, who also gave her life to Satan, starts turning into a vampire. And then they bring a priest in. And the priest, which is brilliantly played by the guy who was the gypsy. So double act, right? Double role.
Yeah.
So, but it's so blasphemous. It's so much nudity. The girls do end up going to an orgy with other Satanists, and the devil does appear. He's got what the Catholic version, what they say Satan looked like, right? Like, he's got the goat's head, basically. Lots of nudity, lots of gore, lots of blasphemy. I love this movie. Again, not going to give too much away about it, but this fucking movie goes off the rails. Fucking nuns bursting in flames. There is self-flogging by Catholic nuns and priests because, hey, that's what Catholics like to do. They like to pay for their sins. So there's a lot of, so it kind of draws that line, like, who's the more evil here? Is it the Catholics? Is it the people following, or these girls, are they just following their instincts to want to be a part of something bigger than the Catholic Church? So that makes them evil, but are they lesbians? So full bush in this movie, just to let everybody know, full 70s bush. I love this movie. It's dirty, it's grimy, it's gritty, it's blasphemous, it's satanic. And when I did Alucarda a long time ago on Android Vision, and I had Sean do it with me, he's a staunch Catholic, which is fine. I respect everybody. He literally fucking felt like he committed a sin watching this movie. He's like, bro,
oh, wow.
like he's like, dude, I got to go to church. And I was like, what? So a funny story, I did get a Alucard the 40th anniversary shirt and it's got all these upside down crosses on the back, right? Jesus, and bleeding. And so it was one summer, and Rachel's like, "Hey, let's go get some Baskin Robbins," which is ice cream place. I don't know if you guys have that up there.
Yeah.
31
Oh
flavors.
yeah.
So I'm like, all right, let's go. And she's like, "Can you run in for me?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll run in for you." And like I run in and I'm wearing the shirt, right? And like there's families and everybody in there. And the Alucarda shirt, the girl has her tits hanging out on the cover with a fucking it's such a fucking offensive shirt. And she's like, "Everybody was looking at you in there." I was like, "I noticed that. Why the fuck were they? That was weird. Like, do I have something growing on my face? Like, what the fuck, And she's like, then we look down at my shirt. I'm like, fuck. I mean, it's just littered with. I'll probably pull it down here and show you guys in a minute, but because I record in my closet. But yeah, so Alucarda, I love it. It's fucking amazing. Check it out. It's blasphemous as fuck. It's dirty. It's grimy, and it's about Satan. So there you have it.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It sounds like your movie, Android. Not gonna lie, this definitely sounds like an Android pick. So my number one, probably not going to be a surprise to Scotty, is Alice, Sweet Alice.
Oh, actually, I had a different movie picked.
Oh yeah? Oh
Yeah.
well, you were wrong. So, this 1976 movie is a slasher. I guess is it a giallo? Would this be considered a giallo or no? I don't know what giallos are.
I think this is kind of like borderline giallo, borderline slasher.
Okay,
Is this the one with Brooke? Is this the one with Brooke?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's about basically two young ladies, the 12-year-old named Alice and her 9-year-old sister named Karen, and Karen is murdered. And Alice is seen as the prime suspect. So the movie explores whether Alice did indeed commit this murder or not. There's a creepy pedo neighbor that gets what's coming to him in this film, which is a great little scene. The acting in this film is phenomenal, especially from the kids. And I think what most people know about is the rain jacket and the mask that comes out of this movie. And I wanted to see this movie for years. I had a really hard time getting my hands on a good copy. And luckily, I have a good friend that we all have that has a Plex. And I was able to watch his copy and love it. Love it. I think this movie, especially when you have strong child actors and you have a child that is accused of a murder, I think that can be very powerful. We see children as very innocent. And I think the 70s was a time where they really started to explore that idea of children not being innocent and being capable of horrible, horrendous things. So if you haven't had a chance, this is a very popular film from the 70s, but I strongly recommend Alice, Sweet Alice.
Hell
and that's
yes.
it. That's it. So now we just do our honorable mentions. I'll go just because it's on me to just make it easier. So I only have 4. Obviously, there's lots of movies that I really like, but I had to think about, if I was flipping through the channels on a Saturday afternoon, what would I stop and stay on? The first one was Jaws. I think we got to give credit to Jaws and everything that it did. Grizzly. I really like Grizzly.
Nice.
Yeah, Grizzly's fun. It's such a fun one.
It is.
I love The Omen. I love Gregory Peck. I think that probably has a lot to do with it. And I adore frogs. I think that ending being of frogs is creepy as fuck.
What about Sam Elliott's fucking giant trouser snake in that movie?
I like that too. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you had honorable mentions, but yet there's 2 movies that I so expected to be somewhere on your list that were not.
Oh yeah.
Deep Red.
Yeah. No.
And Fangs.
Oh, Fangs is my love. I love Fangs. Fangs is Snaky Bender. Snaky Bender for life.
That movie is so insane.
Right? Oh man, love it.
So yeah, I'll run through mine. I have 5 of them. So I mean, what 70s films can you have, or what 70s list can you have without these 2 films, especially? 1974's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's fucking incredible. 1977's Suspiria. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Suspiria. Witch. And then these 3 were ones that I kept rotating between if they were going to be on my top 5 for sure. And that is Hausu from 1977, or also known as House. Japanese ghost story that is fucking batshit insane, bonkers. It is the weirdest goddamn movie I've ever seen, and I laugh hysterically every time I see it. Theater of Blood, 1973, with Vincent Price, a scorned actor killing off critics, playing pretty much portraying different acting roles as he kills off these characters, and you can tell Vincent Price is just having a fucking blast with this film. And then 1974's Sugar Hill, blaxploitation revenge flick. Absolutely freaking awesome, creepy ass zombies in this, because it's basically about this woman that these racist white people end up killing her husband, and she goes and meets the voodoo priest, the Baron Samedi, who gives her the power to summon zombies to help exact her revenge. And it is fucking an awesome movie.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think they're like kind of on that topic. Like, there's a really good handful of blaxploitation films from the 70s that really delved. So you got Blackenstein. I don't know if you know about Blackenstein, and then you have Dr. White, or is it Dr. Black? Dr. Black and Mr. White, which is basically, it's a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde movie. And then there's a really cool one. Well, there's an Exorcist one. It's called JD's Revenge.
Oh, nice.
And JD's Revenge is it's basically a possession movie, but yeah. So anyways, I watched all those last year, all these blaxploitation films. So it's like these horror ones, which is really cool because, again, we kind of talked about earlier about how, like, I liked how the African American culture of the 70s did want to do their take on the horror genre as well, you know, which was really fucking cool. And there's like quite a handful of those. As shitty as a lot of them are, they still are pretty endearing, especially.
Oh, they absolutely are.
I remember first seeing Dr. Black and Dr. Black and Mr. White on an Elvira episode when I was a little kid. I was like, what is
nice?
I think it was Mr. White because he did kind of get pale when he was the mean guy, you know. Oh. Real quick before I do my thing, let's see. Okay, so this is the Alucarda shirt. I'm gonna hopefully do this justice.
Wow, this is pretty intense. So as we can see, there's a lot of faces on this shirt, and there's some boobies. Yes, very clear. There's some boobies with a knife and some blood. I can see why everyone in Baskin Robbins was staring at you.
Well, this is the back.
Here we go. My. Ooh,
oh, yeah.
Nice. Upside down crosses with a naked person upside down. Awesome, Android. Only you.
And then I have the long sleeve, and the long sleeve actually has the girl bending backwards with the knife, and like they have it angled to where you can kind of see her bush peeking out.
Oh, jeez.
It's the it's the 70s bush.
It's the 70s bush.
Yeah. So let me go to my picks, and I'm gonna maybe have just off the top of my head, right? Like, I have Lucio Fulci Zombie.
Yes,
it's one of my most favorite zombie movies. Obviously, Jaws. The Exorcist, The Shining, and what else was a one that really blew me away? Obviously, Phantasm holds a dear place in my heart. And those were a lot of the movies that were on my list, but kind of probably a couple ones that I was really batting around with on this one that for the list I wanted to give you guys was 1977's The Incredible Melting Man.
Ooh, we actually recently
heard about that movie, yeah.
And then I have 1975's Bug. And nice. The 70s do love their bug movies. Bug is like kind of a weird kind of mad scientists. These bugs are released, these dormant cockroaches are released out of a fault line, and they like to they feed off of like fire or something. I forget. It's weird. But anyways, the mad scientist cross-pollinates them with regular cockroaches, and they end up eating him. And it's not for the squirmy type. So I actually have a Famous Monsters in Filmland because I collect those old magazines right here to the right of me. It's hung up. I'm not going to get it down, but of The Incredible Melting Man.
That's really cool, Android. That's really cool.
Fuck it. I'm getting it down.
Oh, Android doesn't care. He's decided. He's like, no one puts Android in a corner. Look how fucking cool that is. Look at the melting. Oh my God, that's gross. Ew.
Yeah. So anyways.
Yeah, I wonder where Hellraiser got their inspiration from.
Right? They took have you seen RoboCop, Heather?
Yes. A long time ago. I don't remember much of it though, to be honest.
So the melting guy from RoboCop takes inspiration from this. So
oh, definitely.
It's a fun creature feature.
Yeah, it looks pretty badass. Well, we've come to the end of our show. So before we plug a little bit more of Android, please, if you're not already a member yet and you're listening to this free on our feed, you could have heard it 2 weeks earlier if you're a Patreon. Yes, that's right, Android. And for only $3 a month, people get access to all the other cool Legion stuff that we do. So Scott and I do a top 5 show with a famous podcaster every month, and they always bring the knowledge. We pick topics for people that we know that are knowledgeable in, so they share a lot of information. So you got a lot out of this episode. So if you want more like this, please join us on Patreon, and also listen to our other Legion friends. So before we go, Android, would you like to pump
it up?
Pump it up, whatever. P-word your shows, or
P-word.
We're gonna provide links, don't worry. But like, was there anything you want to say, or
come follow me, Android Virus, on Twitter. That's where you see I kind of promote all my shit, all the podcasts I do, Android Vision. And I know Twitter's a cesspool, but you can fuck with algorithms, gang. You don't have to see all the bullshit. Just like things that you like. Stay out of the politics, and you won't get all the bullshit on Twitter like that people complain about. Yeah, you can. I like horror. I like pro wrestling, and I like podcasts, and I like nerdy shit, and that's all the stuff that I like, and that's all the shit that my Twitter feed gives me. So, so you can come like that. Come like me, Android Virus, on Instagram. That one comes with a warning. And just come like my Facebook page, Android Vision. That's where everything's at. And again, we do the Cemetery Gates podcast with me and Xander Kane. We do It's Not Horror with you guys. And then I do another couple of, I don't know, not so serious podcasts. We kind of do it whenever we're kind of feeling froggy. We have Is It Really That Bad? And I have the wrestling show with Mr. Wildman Willis Wheeler and Nudie, where we just talk all nerdy things about wrestling and the state of pro wrestling. And we only do that show maybe every other month, but I just upload that to my YouTube channel. Oh yeah, come like my YouTube channel, Android Virus and Android Vision. I have 2 of them, so come like those.
Like everything that is Android, you will not be disappointed. Let me assure you.
That is 100% correct.
That you will not be disappointed.
I have been such a good boy this last year on my social media, by the way.
Yes, you have been. But Android, we love you and accept you for who you are. And we never want you to change.
I'm done with these 30-day bans.
But you do get banned a lot. This is true.
I've been pretty good. So I get tempted, but I guess that's what Messenger's for, right?
Exactly.
And you never cease to disappoint via Messenger. No. But that's reserved for close friends only. So that's VIP in order to get onto, Android DMs. You gotta be pretty tight with them in order to do that.
We'll keep the circle tight.
That's right. Like the inner circle. This is like
yes.
Yes.
There you have it.
So thank you, Android, so much for
thank you.
Us.
It like
awesome.
You guys.
This was amazing, dude.
Bottom of my heart. It was a pleasure. It was an honor, and it really feels good to know that you people think of me as highly as you do. And
we really do.
Really appreciate it. Seriously,
dude,
it makes me feel
good. We freaking love you, and we are so happy to finally have you on the show.
Yeah. And then we're coming for our last guest on It's Not Horror. We have something special planned for Mr. Venom coming New Year. So, Scotty, why don't you see us out?
All right, everyone. So thank you very much for listening to our top 5 lists of the 70s horror films on our Legion Patreon feed and our regular feed. We will be back next week with our our main feed topic, which will be something special, to say the least. So until next time, everyone, unpleasant dreams.
Bye.
Bye, guys.